All right, so you know how much I love a good deep dive. And this time, we're going back into the world of the Stallion journals.
Back by popular demand.
You got that right. It seems like everyone's on the hunt for that perfect notebook. You know, the one that just calls to them.
It's that fresh start feeling, isn't it? That blank page just waiting for ideas.
Exactly. And you've sent over a ton of material this time. We've got articles on the history of journals, tips on picking the right one, using them effectively, even some inspirational quotes about writing.
Sounds like we're covering all the bases.
We are. You even sent over some stuff about Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, did you know he kept a journal?
Oh, he absolutely did. And it wasn't just sketches and inventions either. I mean, those were in there, of course. But he also used it for personal reflection, philosophical musings.
Wow, so it was like a window into his mind. That's incredible.
It really is. And it just goes to show you this urge to document our thoughts and experiences. It's timeless. It connects us to those who came before us.
Okay, I'm already hooked. And speaking of connections, one thing that jumps out from all this material is how the Stallion positions itself. It's not just a notebook, it's a journal notebook for writing. I mean, what do you think about that distinction?
I think they're being very deliberate. They're targeting writers, people who are serious about the craft, not just someone jotting down a grocery list.
Right, and that segues perfectly into their features. I mean, they really emphasize premium paper quality, flat lay binding, durable covers. It seems like they've thought of everything a writer could want.
They really have. And it's not just marketing fluff either. That flat lay binding, for example, it's not just about comfort. They've actually drawn inspiration from historical bookbinding techniques. Those early codices, the precursors to our modern books, they use similar methods to create a smooth writing surface.
Huh, I never thought about it like that. So it's not just innovation, it's actually building on centuries of tradition.
Exactly. And you see that same attention to detail in their other features, the paper quality, for example. It's not an accident that they use thick, high-quality paper.
Oh, tell me about it. I am a fountain pen enthusiast, right? And finding a notebook that can handle fountain pen ink without feathering or bleeding through is a nightmare.
It's a struggle. It reminds me of a friend of mine. She's an artist, and she absolutely swears by Stallion journals for her ink sketches. She used to go through sketchbooks so quickly because the ink would bleed through. But with Stallion, she can finally layer those ink washes without worrying.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Features tell, stories sell. It's those little details that can make a huge difference for someone who's really passionate about their writing or their art.
Absolutely. And of course, we can't forget about the durability factor. You want a journal that can handle being tossed in a bag, maybe surviving a coffee spill or two.
Oh, don't even get me started on spills.
Yeah.
Back in college, I had this beautiful leather-bound journal, right? And I accidentally left it on the roof of my car.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, drove off with it right up there. It did not survive the journey. So, yeah, durability is key.
It is, because ultimately you want a journal that can become a part of your life, a constant companion that's there for all those moments of inspiration.
It's almost like an extension of yourself. And speaking of extensions, let's talk about the history of journaling itself. I mean, it's fascinating to think that people have been documenting their thoughts and experiences for centuries.
It is, and it's not just about recording events either. The sources really emphasize that for a lot of historical figures, journaling was a way to process emotions, to work through ideas, to spark creativity.
Just like Da Vinci. I bet his journal was just full of mind-blowing sketches and inventions.
Oh, absolutely. And from what I've read, it also had those personal reflections, those philosophical ideas. It wasn't just a scientific notebook. It was a space for him to explore the full spectrum of his mind.
That's just amazing. It really speaks to the power of journaling, how it captures not only the facts of our lives, but also our inner world, how we think and feel.
Precisely. It makes you think about what stories are waiting to be told in your own journal, doesn't it? Makes you wonder what stories are locked up inside, just waiting to get out.
Right. And the best part is, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You can be as free-flowing or structured as you like.
That's so true. And the sources really emphasize that, they encourage you to experiment. Bullet journaling, stream of consciousness, even adding in sketches or little collages. It's all about finding what works for you.
I'm a big list person myself. But lately, I've been trying to incorporate more of that free writing,
Sure.
just letting the thoughts spill out onto the page. No judgment.
It can be so freeing. And that's another area where that Stallion paper quality really shines. You need a surface that can keep up when you're experimenting like that.
I've definitely had notebooks where I was almost afraid to use certain pens because I knew they would bleed through. It's almost like it held me back creatively.
I get that. It's like having this beautiful melody in your head, but the instrument you're trying to play it on is out of tune.
Perfect analogy. And I think that's why Stallion focus on those high-quality materials is resonating with so many people.
Hmm.
They're creating tools that empower you to express yourself fully. No limitations.
Exactly. And I think that gets to the heart of why journaling has endured for so long. It allows us to connect with ourselves, to explore our inner landscape, and to make sense of the world around us.
You know, I used to think journaling was just for, like, angsty teenagers writing about their crushes and stuff.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, I've realized it's so much more than that.
It is. It can be a tool for self-discovery, a form of therapy, a way to process experiences, and a space to cultivate creativity. The possibilities are endless.
And the sources actually highlight some really incredible examples of how journaling has been used throughout history. Like, did you know that some of the earliest journals were actually travelogues and scientific observations?
It's true. I mean, think about it. Before the internet, before instant communication, journals were often the only way to document explorations and discoveries.
It's amazing to think about those early explorers, you know, painstakingly documenting their voyages in their journals. They were like the original bloggers.
Exactly. And those journals weren't just factual accounts either. They were filled with personal observations, sketches of new lands, reflections on the journey itself, both the challenges and the triumphs.
And now those journals are invaluable resources for historians, for anthropologists, even scientists. It's like a time capsule from another era.
It is, and it makes you realize that the journal you're keeping today could become a historical document someday. It might not be about discovering new lands, but it's still a record of your unique perspective, your experiences in this moment in time.
Okay, now I'm feeling the pressure to write something profound.
Huh.
No more grocery lists for me. Time to unleash my inner Shakespeare.
Uh-huh. No pressure. Remember, the beauty of journaling is that it's a judgment-free zone. Write about anything that moves you, big or small, profound or completely mundane.
You're right, you're right. I need to silence that inner critic and just let the words flow. Speaking of flow, you mentioned your friend who's an artist and loves those Stallion journals for her ink sketches. Do you keep a journal yourself?
I do. I tend to prefer those unlined ones, though. It gives me the freedom to write, draw, even paste in clippings or photos.
Ooh, a multimedia journal. I love it. What kind of things do you typically write about?
All sorts of things. Sometimes it's reflections on my work, sometimes brainstorming for new projects, sometimes it's just processing thoughts and emotions.
Like a mental decluttering session. I bet it helps you stay organized and focused.
It does, and I find that just the act of writing things down helps me solidify those thoughts and make connections I might not have made otherwise.
That makes a lot of sense. There's something about that physical act of putting pen to paper that engages a different part of the brain.
Absolutely. That tactile experience, the feeling of the pen gliding across the paper, it can be very grounding and even therapeutic.
Which brings us back to that paper quality. I remember this one time I was trying to use this beautiful calligraphy pen in this cheap notebook I had, and the ink just feathered and bled everywhere. It was a disaster.
Oh, I can only imagine. It's like having the perfect brush, but the canvas is too rough. It completely undermines the whole creative process.
Exactly. And that's where Stallion's attention to detail really stands out. They understand that the writing experience is more than just the words themselves. It's about the feel, the visual appeal, that overall sense of quality and craftsmanship.
I agree. And that brings us back to the importance of choosing a journal that truly speaks to you, one that feels good in your hands, inspires you visually, and can handle whatever you want to throw at it, creatively speaking.
So true. It's like finding the perfect wand for a wizard. The right tool can amplify your magic.
I love that. And speaking of magic, the sources we have this time actually include some pretty inspiring quotes about the power of journaling.
Oh, yes. Let's hear them. I'm always up for a dose of literary inspiration.
Well, one that really stood out to me was from Oscar Wilde. He said, "I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train."
Classic Oscar Wilde.
Yeah.
Witty and insightful as always.
And then there's Anne Frank's diary, of course.
Mm.
Such a powerful testament to the enduring power of the written word, even in the face of unimaginable adversity.
Her diary is truly a gift to the world, a reminder of the importance of bearing witness to our experiences, both personal and historical.
Absolutely. And we can't forget Virginia Woolf. She believed that journaling helped her clear her mind and foster her creativity. She called it a method of thought.
A method of thought. I love that. It really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's not just about recording events. It's about exploring ideas, processing emotions, and making sense of our inner world.
And those explorations can lead to some truly profound insights and creative breakthroughs.
I'm feeling very inspired to upgrade my current notebook situation right now. Maybe old Stallion is in my future.
Well, if you're looking for a journal that can really keep up with your creative endeavors, I'd say Stallion is a very strong contender. Their commitment to quality and craftsmanship is evident in every detail.
I'm convinced. I'm heading over to their website to check out their collection. Those hardcover journals with the faux leather covers are really calling my name. They just scream heirloom quality.
Excellent choice. And they have a great range of colors and sizes. I'm sure you'll find the perfect one for your style.
The possibilities. Okay, but before I get completely lost in a world of journal choices, one last question. Knowing everything we've talked about, the history, the benefits, all of it, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out with journaling?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is to just start writing. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about perfection. Just let your thoughts flow onto the page.
No pressure, just write. I love it.
Exactly. And remember, your journal is your space. It's a place to explore, to experiment, to be yourself. Embrace the journey and see where it takes you.
Yeah, it really is all about the journey, right? And finding that journal that can be your trusty companion along the way.
Our partner in crime for all your creative adventures.
Exactly. You know, I have to admit, I'm getting pretty excited about the idea of getting a Stallion journal. I might just have to treat myself. For research purposes, of course.
Of course. Always in the name of research.
Always. You know those inspirational quotes we talked about? They really got me thinking about the whole legacy of journaling. It's not just about, capturing our own thoughts and experiences. It's also about contributing to something bigger, something that spans generations.
It's like building a bridge to the future.
A bridge to the future. I like that. I remember hearing this saying once, someone's trash is another person's treasure. And maybe it's the same with journals,
Absolutely. Can you imagine if we had access to the journals of everyday people from throughout history? Farmers, teachers, shopkeepers.
What a treasure trove of stories that would be.
Right. It would be incredible, like a mosaic of human experience, each journal a tiny tile contributing to this massive, intricate work of art.
And your journal, with all its, little quirks and observations, it becomes a part of that, like a legacy you're creating, not just for yourself, but for anyone who might stumble upon it someday.
Maybe 100 years from now, someone will be poring over your words, fascinated by your perspective on the world.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. It's like suddenly my to-do lists and random thoughts have so much more meaning.
Because they're a reflection of you, your life, this specific point in time. That's worth preserving.
You're so right. Okay, I'm officially inspired. Time to ditch the sticky notes and get myself a real journal. And I think I know just where to start my search.
Me too. And I have a feeling that within those Stallion pages, you're going to discover a whole world of creativity and self-expression you never knew you had.
That's the plan. So to everyone listening, if you're feeling even a little bit inspired, I say go for it. Find that perfect journal, grab your favorite pen, and just start writing your story.
Because your story matters.
Your story matters. Well said. Who knows? Maybe someday your journal will be a treasured artifact, inspiring future generations.
What a legacy to leave behind.
What a legacy indeed. All right, I'm off to go do some journal shopping. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been an incredibly enlightening conversation.
The pleasure was all mine. Happy writing.